Hey y'all, welcome to the Filling Station. It's a new day, another opportunity to either make money in this market or to just learn from the market. But first, let me give my disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor, y'all. I just enjoy teaching people how to build generational wealth. And yes, the stock market is just one of those avenues. So this video is for educational purposes only. But if you could please like, share, subscribe, y'all. We learn and we grow together. With that being said, let's get started. So we are looking at AMD. We closed at 159.54. And it seems as if we found support here at this 157.31. We had that level marked, right? So found support, bounced from there, only to come back to this level and find support again. 157.60 resistance, we could possibly say 158.23. So back to the upside. Where are the trouble places? Possibly at that 158.50, which is where our 20 EMA is as of now, if you're using the moving averages, right? So breaking beyond that area, 158.95 could be a rejection area for us, possibly 159.18. Again at 159.52, y'all see the ATR trailing stop is around the 159.75, which is not far from the 159.87 area that I have here. So breaking that, possibly 160.07, 160.24, 160.39, 160.58, 160.75, 161.02, and breaking that 161.34. Those are possible areas of resistance for AMD. Now let's say we break under this level here of 157.60, kind of where that 200 EMA is. We could very well come back to this area, which is around the 157.31. Breaking that brings us back to the 157. Should we break that, 156.75, 156.18, breaking that 156.18 area, 155.82, 155.54, and 155.10. Those are possible areas of support for AMD as of right now. Again, not financial advice. So if AMD is something that you trade, I say it often, y'all, trade carefully, right? So let's go look at Meta today just to see where we are. We closed at 751.98. It looks kind of like AMD, right? So looks like we found support somewhere. Let's say the 5 EMA is what's really holding us up on this 30-minute chart, which is at 754.64. Resistance 754.86. Back to the upside, we would need to break beyond this 200 EMA, which is around the 755.29 area. Should we break that, 755.62, and breaking that 756.01, should we break that level, 756.74, and breaking that 757.50. Now if we break this 757.50 for Meta, something stopped us here around the 758.05 area. Now should we break that, we could possibly have trouble again, 759.91, 761.69, 762.84, and breaking that level right here, 763.50, something kind of in this area here, 763.50, and breaking that 764.27. So if you are trading Meta to the upside today, those are possible areas of resistance. Now back to the downside, if we lose the area of 754.23, we come back to around 753.41, and again here at 752.57, 751.89, and breaking that level brings us to 750.21, breaking the 750.21, 748.25, 747.57, and should we break that area, 746.30, 745.55, and 744.72. Those are possible areas of support and resistance for Meta today. So if Meta is something that you trade, I say trade carefully, right? So let's go to NVDA just to see where we are today. And it seems like we closed at 177.33. Support as of now is around this 178.25. Back to the upside, where are the trouble places for NVIDIA? 178.58, 178.78, 179.16, breaking that 179.16 area. There's a few layers of resistance. 179.51. Let's say if we break that 179.51 area, which is around here. We could possibly have trouble again. 179.74, 179.94, 170, 180.12, 180.31, 180.65. Those are possible areas of resistance for NVIDIA as of now. However, breaking this level here of 178.25, y'all see that 5 EMA is kind of holding us up, right? So breaking this level, we could very well, I'm going to mark this, come back to around the 177.99 area and find support here. Something help this area here and here, so I will watch that. 177.99. Should we break that level, 177.80, and breaking that brings us kind of back to this area here of 177.59. Breaking that brings us back to at 177.59, 177, let's say 177.43, and breaking that level brings us back to 177.13. Breaking the 177.13 for NVIDIA today, we could possibly come back to 176.89. Breaking that brings us to 176.60, and breaking that level brings us to 176.24. Breaking that 176.24, we can come back to 175.88. Breaking the 175.88 area, 175.47 and 175.22, 174.92. Those are possible areas of support and resistance for NVIDIA. Keep in mind, y'all, I look at support and resistance on a much smaller scale. Why? Because when I'm in the trade, I kind of want to know where my possible trouble places are. Again, not financial advice. Now, we do have a few inside day candles for today, and Macy's being one of those, meaning if we should break above the 1721 area for Macy's, 1736 is the target. To the downside under 1683, 1682 is the target, which is not very far away. Let's go see how much Macy normally moves, about 71 cents per day. Keep in mind that could be in either direction, right? So if Macy's is something that you trade, it is an inside day candle. Roblox or RBLX is also an inside day candle. Let's see where those areas are. Should we break above the 132.97 upside target for RBLX or Roblox today is 134.36. Now to the downside under 130.70, we have a downside target of 129.86. So if RBLX is something that you trade, I say trade carefully. It normally moves about $5.73. That is the ATR, or the average true range for Roblox. So I said often, y'all, trade carefully. AT&T is also an inside day candle for today, breaking above 29.44, upside target 29.59. Now to the downside under 28.89, we have a downside target of 28.83 for T or AT&T, and it normally moves about 59 cents per day. Again, not a big mover, but if T or AT&T is something that you trade, I said often, y'all, trade carefully. WFC or Wells Fargo is also an inside day candle for today, so above 81.26, upside target 81.46. Now to the downside under 79.89, downside target today 78.96, and WFC or Wells Fargo normally moves about $1.73. That is the ATR. Again, that could be in either direction. So if Wells Fargo is something that you trade, I said trade carefully, right? So let's look at the SPY today just to see where we are. We've been making new highs, y'all. So yesterday that 654.80. So that was a high from yesterday. As of now, it seems like we're finding support, and right, we're kind of hanging out at this 653.68 area that we have marked. I have the ATR trail and stop at 654.29 as a level of resistance. Before that, we could possibly have some trouble around the 653.94, and then at the 654.29, and breaking that brings us back to the 654.55. And should we break that 654.80 is within reach for the SPY. Keep in mind, we are or have been making new highs. Right now, let's look to the downside. Say, for instance, we lose support at this 5 EMA. As of right now, let's see, we could find support here around the 750. Why I keep saying we can find support at the 653.36 area, and if we lose that area, we can come back to 652.98. Breaking that level brings us back to around the 652.66 area, and should we break that, we could very well come back to 652.17, breaking that 651.87, and if we should break that, 651.42, 651.21, breaking that brings us back to around the 650.79 area for the SPY. Now, should we break that, we have the 200 EMA right at a level that we have marked. I love to see that right at the 650.40. The level is at 650.42 for that 200 EMA. So breaking that, we could very well come back to the 649.79 and again 649.48. So if you're trading the SPY today, those are possible areas of support and resistance. Y'all know I say it often, in this market, anything is possible, right? As with Tesla. Tesla does what Tesla does. I say that often. We closed at 347.79 after coming off of a 356.33 high on yesterday. We come back down to this area, 347.27. Seems like we bounced from there to try to move its way back to the upside. So where are the trouble places for Tesla as of right now? That 351.31 seems to be a support area. Resistance 351.88. Should we break that? Y'all see that ATR trailing stop now is at that 352.94, right at a level that we have at 353.02. So that could be, in my opinion, strong resistance for Tesla. Again, not financial advice. However, breaking that 353.44, we could possibly have trouble again. Let's say something right in this area here for Tesla, 354.18, and breaking that 354.55, 355.38, 355.83. There's a few layers up to the 356.41. Could be a strong resistance area. However, breaking that 356.41, 356.92, breaking that 356.92, 357.51, and 358.10. Those are possible areas of resistance for Tesla. Now back to the downside. Under the 350.61, we could very well come back to 350.02. There's a few layers of support here. 350.02 down, breaking that level, we can come back to around 349.37 and breaking that 348.75. Should we break that, 348.17 and breaking that, y'all see that level 347.78 is kind of right where that 200 EMA is at as of now, that 347.70. Breaking that brings us back to 347.50 and 347.27. So there's a few layers of support for Tesla here from the 347.78 down to the 347.27. However, breaking that brings us back to 346.84, 346.40, and 345.59. So if Tesla is something that you trade today, I said often, y'all trade carefully, mark your levels. Once it goes against your why or your reason for getting in the trade, get out. Live to trade another day, right? So this is what I see when I look at the market, y'all. I said often, there's so many different ways to trade the market, and what's challenging is trying to figure out the strategy that works best for you and to have the discipline to execute your plan, making sure that you have a plan before going into the trade. So I hope that everyone have a very profitable and a very productive day today. Again, if you could, please like, share, subscribe, y'all. We learn and we grow together. With that being said, be blessed as well as a blessing unto others. Until next time.